Hello, friends. Let's address the elephant in the room. This episode was supposed to drop on Friday, but here we are. If you're watching this episode the day it's posted, then it's Saturday. Yeah. I actually have a really good excuse this time, and I would argue that it doesn't have anything to do with my time management for once. So it was announced that there was going to be a limited giveaway for a signed Sonic 3 poster. Yeah, I think the wording on that news was a little unclear, or I am just way too tired from working too much, because that is not what actually ended up happening. I mean, I still got a cool poster out of it, and I did spend the entire day with my mom shopping. So here's another Saturday episode. Hey there, movie lovers. Welcome back. It's your movie buddy here, ready to talk about the last movie on my list of movies that I need to catch up on. Whether you're a longtime subscriber, follower, or you're here with me for the first time, I'm thrilled to have you here. If you're looking for detailed plot breakdowns, you won't find them here, but stick around for my spoiler-free thoughts and honest opinions on the latest film I watched in theaters. If you're here with me on YouTube, you can find timestamps in the video description to jump straight to the sections that you're most interested in. Any TikToks I mentioned in today's episode will be linked in the description below. New reviews drop every Friday and the occasional Saturday, so subscribe on YouTube and follow on Spotify so you don't miss an episode. Grab your popcorn, don't forget your handbooks, and let's get into today's episode on Beetlejuice Beetlejuice. 3 generations of the Dietz family returns home to Winter River after an unexpected family tragedy. Still haunted by Beetlejuice, Lydia's life soon gets turned upside down when her rebellious teenage daughter discovers a mysterious portal to the afterlife. When someone says Beetlejuice's name 3 times, the mischievous demon gleefully returns to unleash his very own brand of mayhem. As always, I want to get into the themes of the film, or at least my take on it. Now, it's normal for a movie to have one or several themes, but definitely a few that really stand out. It's all usually pretty harmonious too. But in this case, there was a lot. A lot stood out, and looking back at it now, it's honestly a little bit overwhelming. You have themes of life and death, love and family, the loss of a parent, the fractured relationship between parent and child, grief, revenge, tragedy, and rejection, and honestly, that's just off the top of my head, and I'm sure I'm missing more. You guys know how I feel about family bonds, what pushes a family together and what pulls them apart. So let's talk about it. I really appreciate how the relationship between the surviving women in the family is explored here. It gives the film an emotional weight and makes it a little bit of a heavier movie. Okay, Beetlejuice has always dealt with heavy themes, but the comedy was so strong that you didn't have to think too deeply about the implications or emotional impact. With Beetlejuice Beetlejuice though, it strikes a pretty good balance, at least some of the time. Lydia, who's been through so much already, is now estranged from her daughter Astrid, and we quickly realize how much that distance is affecting her. The narrative gives Lydia the opportunity to recover that emotional strength as she steps up to save her daughter. It's an impactful journey for the character, and it adds to the movie's depth. This theme ties right into Lydia's character development, so let's talk about it. Lydia has always been a fantastic character, and I actually like where she starts in this movie. You know how you sometimes imagine where a character ends up after the credits roll? I know I'm not the only one. Well, I honestly didn't expect Lydia to be where she was at the beginning of the movie. Without giving too much away, but keeping in line with the theme we're talking about, Lydia is completely disconnected from her daughter. It's impossible for her to even attempt a meaningful connection. You can tell she wants to, but she struggles at every turn. It isn't until Astrid's life is on the line that Lydia realizes she has to do whatever it takes to save her. In that moment, all traces of passivity and hesitation vanish. Visually, I really enjoy this movie. From the black and white flashbacks to the claymation and practical effects to the opening of the movie, it was all so nostalgic. One of my coworkers, who's pretty young, told me that she had seen the movie. She said she liked the movie, but the animation was kind of bad because it looked so old. I was more than happy to tell her all about the 1988 film and how the visual elements in the sequel are faithful to the iconic original. The style of the whole film is so unique. I know I mentioned claymation, which is used here in a fresh way, and the black and white flashbacks, which are new elements, but they fit right in with the established rules of Beetlejuice. Sure, there's some wonky CGI, but it works within the film's overall aesthetic. and there's not too much of it, which I appreciated. The aesthetic of the movie is what you would expect having seen the original and the trailers. I love the stark contrast between the land of the living and the land of the dead. I love the surreal visuals that stray from the norm and that striking and bold color palette. The special effects, practical effects, and overall visual design build upon what the original established in a way that feels like a natural continuation of that world. Now let's talk about the performances, because this cast is brilliant, from the original actors to the new faces. Everyone worked so well to bring back that vibe of the original film. I've got to start this section off by mentioning that there is an excellent cameo. It's short, but memorable and hilarious. Catherine O'Hara easily stepped back into the role of Delia, the over-the-top eccentric artist, bringing back that signature unfiltered humor. Unsurprisingly, Michael Keaton carried a lot of the movie with the force of Beetlejuice's personality. As 3C Films on TikTok pointed out, he hasn't lost his touch. Beetlejuice is still probably a little scary for the kids, but he's definitely much more toned down than the original film. There's something less threatening about him this time around. He definitely seems softer around the edges, especially in his pursuit of Lydia. Michael Keaton does a fantastic job portraying these newer sides of Beetlejuice that we didn't see in the original film. Speaking of the icon herself, Lydia, Winona Ryder does a fantastic job portraying an older, more world-weary version of her. She's been through so much in the land of the living and the land of the dead. Despite what she's been through and the conflict with her daughter, Lydia still has that spark of hope in her. Winona effectively communicates the awkwardness, the struggle, and the strength that defines her character. We can't finish this section without talking about Jenna Ortega. She's quickly becoming one of my favorite actresses, and she's an excellent addition to this cast. I love her acting. I think she's incredibly talented, and the role of Astrid is no exception. You can feel the weight of what it's like for your mother to be the Lydia Deetz. Additionally, you feel the emotional strain of having a mother who, Astrid believes, failed her. Lydia's work connects her with so many people except the person who needs her the most, her daughter, who is still grieving the loss of her father. I'm not going to go off on a tangent, I swear. Jenna Ortega effectively communicates that desire for a bond with her father and her disappointment in how easily her mother is swayed. So, how does Beetlejuice Beetlejuice stack up against the original classic? When we're comparing this movie to the original 1988 film, it's clear that this movie doesn't have the same flair or edge. I saw someone online say that while the new cast is obviously talented, they don't quite capture the same weirdness or unpredictability of the original cast. They use Justin Theroux as an example. While he delivers a solid performance, he comes off as a bit bland, and he doesn't add much to the story, especially compared to the offbeat characters we loved in the first film. I have to agree with this. While the movie still holds on to the quirky, zany spirit of Beetlejuice, it feels more grounded. It's fun, but not as wild or unpredictable as the original. Now, let's wrap up with my final thoughts on the movie. After discussing some key elements, the real question remains, is it worth your time? In my opinion, yes. But the best part of this movie is that it is fun and the acting is fantastic. From start to finish, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice delivers that quirky, offbeat vibe that fans of the original will love. If you're already a fan, you'll have a great time. This film captures the nostalgia of the first movie while still feeling fresh and new. I really liked a comment 3C Films made on TikTok where he said, if you weren't a fan of the original, this movie isn't going to change your mind. But for anyone who enjoys the weirdness of Beetlejuice, there's a lot to love, especially the scenes that take place in the land of the dead. What really stood out to me was the use of practical effects coupled with a lot of the costumes. Bringing back these elements created a strong connection to the original, and it elevates the nostalgia. It's always a treat to see practical effects in modern films, and they're perfectly suited for the overall vibe of this movie. That blend of nostalgia and creativity is what makes this film such a fun experience. Of course, every movie has its pros and cons, and naturally, people like what they like. We're going to get into some criticisms of the movie, and I'll share my thoughts along the way. One thing that did pop out over and over again was a general complaint about the CGI. Personally, this didn't bother me at all. In fact, I think the slightly wonky, off-kilter effects actually added to the film's aesthetic, further connecting it to the original. It didn't ruin the experience for me, but I understand how the look might not be for everyone. Now, onto a critique that I completely agree with. It's with the way the villain is incorporated into the movie. She felt pretty pointless, and as one reviewer pointed out, removing her from the movie wouldn't have impacted the story in any significant way. We're talking, of course, about the criminally underutilized Monica Bellucci. What a babe. She is such a talented actress and had a lot of potential, but she was just there. I really do like her character, Dolores. She's extremely interesting, and I do love her backstory and that connection with Beetlejuice, but it all felt like it was a dramatic buildup to nothing. I definitely just wanted to throw my hands up because I was just expecting so much more. I did read online that she was meant as a distraction, which honestly would have worked if the thing she was distracting us from wasn't so predictable. Another person said that not every storyline gets a satisfying conclusion or enough attention, and this is another thing I can agree with. There is so much going on in this movie, and not all of it is good, or rather, not all of it is strong enough to carry the plot. For example, the fractured relationship between mother and daughter is an incredibly strong element that could have carried the movie on its own, with obviously maybe some more thrown in, but not everything thrown in because it gets a little muddy. But since we're on the topic of the relationship between Lydia and Astrid, and this is my personal critique, the movie did not spend enough time on them, and the film lacked the emotional impact I was looking for. These heavy themes are relatable and they deserve more attention and focus, so to see them kind of glossed over was so disappointing. There are moments where the characters have an opportunity to make that emotional connection, but it is absolutely not given enough time. Instead, the urgency of the plot kicks in and suddenly, all these moments are swept away. Have you had the chance to watch Beetlejuice Beetlejuice yet? If not, what's holding you back? Is it not your cup of tea, not your usual genre? Were you not a fan of the original, or have you never seen it? I'm really curious to hear your thoughts after today's episode. And if you've already watched it, I want to know your take. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Or did you fall somewhere in between? Share your thoughts, opinions, and reactions in the comments below. I am all ears. Overall, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is a fun watch, but I'd say seeing it once is probably enough, unlike the original, which I find myself watching at least once a year. While it's not one that I would reach for during every Halloween season and beyond, it still delivers plenty of laughs and maintains that quirky charm fans of the original movie can appreciate. I know I've mentioned the original a few times, but that's really just to try to give you an idea of where this movie stands. At the end of the day, the sequel knows what kind of movie it is, leaning into its strengths rather than spending its time trying to compete with the original. The director Tim Burton manages to actually pull off a satisfying sequel that could have easily flopped. Beetlejuice Beetlejuice embraces the nature of the story and the established universe while exploring the family connections. Visually, this movie is engaging with an artistic style that's creative and really captures the imagination. The music is varied and it adds another layer of fun to the movie. While it's true the film is crowded with characters and has its predictable moments, and maybe I felt like that miming musical sequence went on a little bit too long, it still offers an entertaining experience, especially for fans of the original or younger viewers who might be new to this world. It might be a little scary for very young kids, and some of the adult humor will likely go over their heads, but overall, Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is a fun, nostalgic trip that's worth checking out. All right, you guys, before we wrap up, I want to talk about what movie I'll be sharing my thoughts on next. The next movie I have tickets for is The Wild Robot, which I'm not going to lie, you guys, I did not plan on watching, but I saw a trailer that said that it's the greatest DreamWorks movie ever. Oh, word? Because DreamWorks made the animated masterpieces How to Train Your Dragon and Kung Fu Panda. So that is a very big claim, and I'm not going to lie, it worked on me. I got. I saw that quote in the trailer and immediately opened the Cinemark app on my phone and I bought tickets. The last movie I have tickets for is Joker Folie à Deux, and I'm not looking at early reviews, but there is some buzz about the changes to Harley's character, so I'm interested to see what they did. I also really love musicals, which I know that people took a lot of issue with when that was announced. I don't mind that at all, but we'll see about that one in October. I've got a podcast exclusive episode coming up next week, and October movies are right around the corner, and there is so much that I'm looking forward to. But anyway, if there's a movie that you're excited about and you want me to talk about, let me know in the comments below or send me a message on Instagram at A.Rocket.Review. Your suggestions are always welcome, and I love hearing from you guys. But for now, a huge thank you to everyone who stuck around with me to the end of the episode. Last week, I shared my thoughts on Trap and Alien Romulus. If you haven't checked those episodes out yet, they are just a click away. And I know you're wondering what happened to that Transformers 1 episode. Well, I posted my thoughts on that one yesterday because honestly, I was just too excited about that movie to wait. If you're watching today's episode on YouTube, you can find the links to all of those episodes in the top right corner. And for my podcast listeners, all of those episodes are available for you as well. Your feedback is always appreciated, so please share your thoughts on YouTube in the comments below. And if you're listening on the Spotify app, they added a comment section, so let me know what you're thinking. Do you agree with my take, or do you have a different opinion? Do you think Beetlejuice Beetlejuice is a good sequel to the original? Was it what you were expecting? Let me know in the comments and let's get the conversation going. If you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. For those who prefer on-the-go listening, maybe while you're in your car, at work, or getting ready for your day, follow me on Spotify so you don't miss out on next week's podcast exclusive episode. And hey, if you're on Instagram, follow me at A.Rocket.Review for sneak peeks and behind-the-scenes content, and that's really just me going to the theater and watching movies at home. Feel free to hop into my DMs with movie suggestions or just a chat about films. Your support honestly means so much to me, and your engagement helps our community grow. Whether it's on YouTube, the podcast, or on Instagram, your presence is greatly appreciated. So until next time, spread positivity, be safe, take care of yourself, and happy movie watching. I'll talk to you guys soon. Bye.